Assalamualaikum Ustazah Datin. Waalaikumsalam warahmatullah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Clear? Is it clear? Because I have problem with my anu tadi. But it's okay. I think I can hear you well. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. Okay.
Can we start?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin wa bihi nasta'in ala umuri dunya wa din wa salatu wa salam ala ashrafil anbiya'i wa mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in amma. Our presenter, Yang Mulia Ustazah Datin Hajah Nurliza binti Datuk Celestia Haji Mahali, Acting Dean, Faculty of Halal Science and Sustainable Tourism, University Islam Sultan Sharif Ali. Participants for this program Khidmat Akademik, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning to all of you. Without further delay, let's start our program with the recitation of Surah Al-Fatiha. Amin, Amin, Ya Rabbal Alamin. Ladies and gentlemen, before we proceed with our program, let me share our presenter's profile. Datin Hajah Nurliza binti Datuk Celestia Haji Mahali is a Bruneian scholar who now serves as acting dean of the Faculty of Halal Science and Sustainable Tourism, UNISA. With over 20 years of experience, she began her career as an economic officer, contributing to national initiatives such as SME development, ease of doing business reforms, Brunei Halal brand projects, and food security policy. Since joining UNISA in 2011, she has held key academic and administrative roles, including Deputy Dean, Program Head, and Head of the Professional Development Unit. As acting dean, she gets the faculty's strategic direction by strengthening halal science and sustainable tourism, fostering industry partnerships, expanding international collaborations, and developing future-ready graduates. Now, we would like to invite our presenter, Yang Mulia Ustazah Datin Hajah Nurliza binti Datuk Celestia Haji Mahali, Acting Dean of the Faculty of Halal Science and Sustainable Tourism, UNISA, to begin her presentation with the title Smart, Clean, and Halal, What Halal Type Looks Like in Tourism. If you have any question for our presenter, you may give your questions in the chat box. Inshallah, I will read it during the Q&A later. Thank you.
Thank you, moderator, Miss Moderator. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin, wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Okay, today is my turn, alhamdulillah. A very good morning to everyone. And alhamdulillah, it's my turn to present and to share a little bit of knowledge that I gathered along my journey as an academician, and I'd like to share it with you today. So I'd like to start the session with a very prominent verse from the Holy Quran. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. قال الله تعالى في كتاب الكريم كلوا واشربوا من رزق الله ولا تعثوا في الأرض مفسدين. It means that eat and drink from the provision of Allah, من رزق الله, ولا تعثوا, and do not commit abuse on earth, spreading corruption. This is Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 60. So today I will try to take us and move beyond prayer rooms and pretty labels of halal and talk about the operational science of halal and tayyiban in tourism, how we make it real in the kitchens, housekeepings, transport, and also tours, because these are the main elements of these tourism industry. When I use this term smart, I mean, smart is evidence-based and technical, tech-enabled, just like a smartwatch, smart car, smart city, smart campus, or even smart nation. So in this tourism industry context, we connect that idea to the industry players, where we can think simple, powerful things. For example, temperature logs that actually get checked, QR coded batches that links to the buffet dish, back to the suppliers, sensors that ping with the chiller drift, and dashboards that show us where we're doing well and what we need to fix things, right? So when we talk about clean, this is not just shiny counters, clean floors. It is disciplined hygiene and also low waste. That looks like color-coded tools, so that raw and ready to eat never touch each other, no cross-contamination. So this is clean. And halal only, they have only halal prep zones, so there's no gray area. Clear allergen protocols to protect our guests in the hotels or in the restaurants, and also the right size buffets. Yeah, so we can stop cooking food that no one eats. We can also clean also means that clean streams, safe safe food donations for the surpluses, for the leftovers, and compost for what is truly inedible anymore. And for the term halal, as it's a halal, it's been used widespread already, and it expands to halal tayyib, halalan tayyiban, means lawful and wholesome, dignified and respectful. So it's lawful ingredients and lawful processes. Also, the labeling, the service from modesty to prayer times, and then fair contracts in terms of agreements with the guests, hotels guests, and also the right size, and also with the suppliers, and also a culture where staff and workers can report the near misses, meaning near misses, almost contamination, without a fear, so that we actually learn and improve. Okay, so by this operational science, I simply mean we ground this in recognized standards and routines, because our local halal requirements is there, plus also the global food safety backbones, for example, HACCP and ISO, HACCP, yeah, HACCP, translated into everyday SOPs, trainings, and a small set of probably KPIs that we can track monthly or daily, and nothing mystical. It's just systems that are repeatable, auditable. Yeah, you can audit every now and then, every day, frequently, and also human. And this is not just for the five-star hotels, of course. Every stakeholder has a role to play. Yeah, in a hotel or cafe, a better supplier, clear segregation, time, temperature, all these are all smart, clean, and halal ingredients. Okay, for tour operators, the itineraries must be respecting prayer times, modesty in terms of attire, and then meal assurance. They're halal and edible and good, clean. and also the partners, yeah, briefed on expectations. So at the destination, in terms of tourism, the destination level, simple incentives for the properties that measure waste, verify the suppliers, and also publish the improvement of the processes. So the promise today is quite practical. We'll connect the Islamic aims to auditable standards, and then show how hotels, cafes, tours operators, and also destinations can materialize um, the halal and tayyiban. So there's checklists, trainings, data point at time, so that the guests can feel the difference, yeah, and the teams or the workers of the services providers can also prove that it's halal and tayyib. Okay. Now, okay, so this is the aim, scope, and deliverables. Before we go deeper into the operational side of halal and tayyiban tourism, I want to frame our session clearly today, what we aim and what we achieve, right? What areas we will cover and what can be expected for your takeaways. Lah. So first, the aim is our primary aim today is operationalize halal and tayyiban as a measurable hospitality system, to treat it not just as a religious ideal. When people say halal, people think of religious, but here we go beyond that. It's a measurable hospitality system. This means that translating values like cleanliness, safety, dignity, ethical conduct into structures we can teach, yeah? And then auditing, monitoring, all these are for continuous improvement. So how do we make halal tayyib visible, practical, and also provable within hotels, cafes, uh, places of attractions, and also to environments? So secondly, the scope is, of course, to do this meaningfully, we must look at the whole service chain, not just the buffet line. So our scope today includes food and beverage, okay, from sourcing to preparation to service rooms and housekeepings, the cleanliness, yeah, and then the privacy, dignity aspects about the guest experience, logistics as well, including the storage, transportation, cold chain integrity, how we avoid cross-contamination, and also the guest interface, where how information is communicated, how staff interact with guests, and how values are reflected in the service etiquette. And finally, the waste flows. Waste, because reducing waste is part of tayyib, part of hygiene, and part of sustainability. All right. Governance, in terms of the standards, the SOPs, yeah, accountability mechanisms, consistency, and then this holistic scope reflects a simple truth. Halal tayyib is not a department. It is a system because it's a whole chain. It's a system. It encompasses everything. And of course, the deliverables today is by the end of the session, I will share a model that shows how halal tayyib functions in modern tourism ecosystem. Yeah. Next is why when we talk about halal in tourism, halal in Islam, many people immediately think of food, right? Whether the chicken is halal, whether the kitchen is certified, yeah? So, but the Quranic pairing of halal and tayyib, halal and tayyib tells us something more than that, much richer information. Halal defines what is permissible, as we know, while tayyib adds the expectation of what is good, clean, yeah, wholesome, safe, ethical, and dignified. So it widens the lens from a question of is it allowed to a question, is this good for people, for the well-being, for the environment, for the society? right? So why does this matter in tourism? Because when someone travels, especially a Muslim traveler, yeah, they temporarily surrender the control because everything is beyond the control. Well, some. And they rely entirely on the integrity of the system around them. For example, the kitchen. They don't see the kitchen when they go to the hotel. The transport, they don't monitor whether it's, the vehicle has been serviced, the tires are okay, yeah, no problem with the engine. So we don't monitor that as travelers, yeah. And the people, we don't know those people. They are strangers. So in tourism, these are the things that we encounter, that we experience. So halal tayyib in tourism becomes more than a religious preference because it becomes a framework of trust, I'd like to put it. It is trust. And this trust is built not through labels alone, just saying that halal friendly, Muslim friendly. And then the guest hopes that the process behind the scenes support that claim. If a hotel says that it's a halal friendly, then the guest hopes that the process also, the kitchen is generally segregating, the ingredients are traceable, and then the housekeeping team respects the privacy and dignity. The waste practices reflect, of course, the Quranic ethics, avoiding israf or wastefulness, yeah. And then the staff culture, they are honest, they are modest, and they're caring. So this kind of support system behind tourism, behind the hotel, behind a food outlet, behind a destination. So when for a destination, for example, Thailand, Bangkok, they serve Muslims and non-Muslims. Okay, so halal tayyib actually raises the overall standard. Clean kitchens, ethical procurement, for example, safety, transparency, all these benefits everybody, not only Muslims. Yeah, so halal tayyib is for all, for everyone. Halal and tayyib matters in tourism because they merge the faith-based values, the halal part, and the universal quality principles, the tayyib part. So they create an environment where travelers feel safe, yeah, respected, and also confident, yeah, confident to travel, that what is happening behind the scene aligns with what is being promised at the front desk. So in simple term, halal and tayyiban transform tourism from an experience of uncertainty into an experience of trust. And trust is the true currency of hospitality. Okay, why now? Why do we talk about this now? When we ask why now, the answer becomes very clear once we look at the three forces shaping today's tourism landscape. For example, the market, the ethics, and also the environment. First, the market. Muslim travelers today are one of the fastest growing tourism segments, yeah, globally. Because and they are also trust sensitive. Trust sensitive. This means that their decision are influenced not just by the price or comfort, but also by how confident they feel that the destination can support their religious and ethical needs. And here's the key: Muslim travelers rarely judge based on amenities alone. Yeah, a prayer room is helpful, it's good to have, yes, but it does not guarantee that the kitchen is clean, that the food is truly segregated, or that the supply chain is reliable. So reputation today hinge on system reliability, on the process behind the scenes that ensure that experience is consistently halal, safe, and respectful. Right? And those destinations, for example, like I mentioned Bangkok, for example, those destinations will get this right and will earn that repeat visitors, yeah, if they get it right. For those who get it wrong, of course, they will face reputational damage very quickly. Secondly, the ethics, of course. Around the world, regulators and certification bodies are moving beyond symbolic compliance. Yeah, a halal sticker, for example, a halal logo. Yeah, it's sometimes it's no longer enough because people can, you know, make frauds and just copy that sticker, that logo. Authorities now expect auditable systems, you know, where you can have documented procedures, verified suppliers, traceability, yeah, record keeping, uh, to show compliance is real, just like our SOPs, our auditing, yeah, ISO audits. It's not assumed, it's all documented. So this actually aligns with Islamic ethics too, because halal tayyib is ultimately about integrity, about transparency, and also about accountability. So it's not about marketing, it's all about moral responsibility. That's why it's ethics. And the third one is the environment. We cannot escape the reality of that the hospitality and also the food sector products, food sectors, they produce enormous waste, right? Food waste, plastic waste, water and energy inefficiencies. Globally, hotel buffets alone contribute thousands of tons of wasted food each day, believe it or not. And um, also the climate pressure, yeah, it forces now destination to rethink how they operate because reducing waste is not just environmental. It is also part of the Quranic ethic of avoiding israf, I mentioned, and the wasteful behavior that Islam strongly discourage. Okay, so halal and tayyiban actually becomes a bridge between faith-based values and modern sustainability standards. Again, sustainability is there. What is good for the earth is also good for tourism and good for the Muslims, travelers. Yeah. So in summary, for this point, we are at a point where the market demands trust, regulators demands the system, and the planet demands responsibility. This is why halal type is also not just relevant, it is essential and it is very timely. Yeah. Now, the definitions that matters here of halal versus halal tayyib. When we talk about halal, many people think about food and ingredients, right? Whether something contains pork or alcohol or any prohibited substance. Yeah. And that is correct, actually. The halal deals with permissibility, the legal side of what we can eat or use. Haram versus halal. It focuses on inputs, yeah, inputs, what we put in, and the processes along the line, and also the ensuring that what we consume or offer is within the boundaries of Islamic law. But actually, Islam does not stop at halal. Okay, it's more than that. The Quran actually pairs it with a second word, tayyib, and you find this in the Quran, halalan tayyiban. Tayyib means good, yeah. As we speak, it means safe, ethical, yeah. It speaks quality of what we consume and moral character of how it is produced. So if halal answers the question, is it permissible? Then tayyib answers the question, is it good for people? Again, is it good for the well-being? Is it good for the earth? Is it good for the world, society? And this is where the definition widens, as I have mentioned earlier in the slide before this. So tayyib widens the lens to hygiene. Not only the food is lawful, but the kitchen is clean, the storage is safe, the environment in which food is prepared is protect, I guess, from the harm. Yeah, and it widens the lens of the workers' dignity, ethical treatment, the employees, fair workloads. Yeah, for the employees, respectful behaviors, humane working conditions, all influence whether the final outcome aligns with Islamic values. It widens also the truthful communications, no misleading labels, no vague halal-friendly claims, no marketing gimmicks. Yeah, it is a system that can deliver. And this is very important. Importantly, halal tayyib turns what we often think of as Islamic values haja, okay, only as Islamic values, into our daily routines, what we do every day, such as the SOPs, of course, the trainings, the audits, the staff culture, procurement decisions, your purchases, your guest communication, how you speak and how you communicate with the guests. It should not be ideas on paper, okay, but habits. It becomes habits and procedures that guests can trust the organization, and the organization can prove it. So it makes halal type so relevant today and to tourism, because tourism is ultimately about delivering consistent, safe, ethical experience to people who place their trust in our system. Okay, so that is um, the definition. Now we talk about the dual lens, maqasid and sustainability. We ground these routines, as we mentioned earlier, into dual lens, the Islamic purposes and the sustainability outcomes. Maqasid al-Sharia, it articulates protective ends. We know that we learn, I think if halal and Taiban students or halal science students, they know this. And also students in uni science very exposed to this maqasid sharia, yeah? حفظ النفس, حفظ العقل, حفظ النسل, حفظ المال. Okay, faith, life, intellect, lineage, and also wealth. Okay, so sustainable tourism names the outcome we seek, environmentally integrity, social, cultural respect, economic fairness, good governance, all these sustainable tourism. And our claim is simple: halal type practices, hygiene, truthful labelings, dignified guest interactions, as I mentioned, how we communicate with the guests, waste minimization, how to reduce waste or zero waste, fair procurement. You don't, you know, um, purchase with a different price and sell with a different price with no transparency. So that's not fair. And these are means that advance the maqasid and also map cleanly into the sustainability pillars. So this gives us the principle of why and also a policy friendly of what. Okay, and next we are talking about halal and tayyiban, from faith to operations. When you talk about halal and tayyiban, we're talking about taking a religious principle and turning it into a daily operational habit. As I mentioned, it becomes a habit, it becomes a procedure, it becomes something that you do every day. Halal tells us what is permissible. Tayyib, of course, adds the responsibility part to make it clean, yeah, to make it safe. So in tourism, we cannot rely on symbols alone, like a halal logo or a prayer room. Those are important, but they don't guarantee what happens behind the scene, as I mentioned. Yeah. So the real shift is moving from symbols to system, proper segregation in kitchens, verified suppliers. You have to know where you get your ingredients, where you get your raw materials, and your staff are trained in respectful service, and waste practices that reflect the Quranic warning against israf or wastefulness, right? So the Quran pairs halal and tayyib together, lawful and good, and instruct us not to waste. This gives us a clear compass, yeah? Clean kitchen, safe food handling, dignified guest treatment, and environmentally friendly, responsible operations. So it's not because we claim it halal and tayyiban is credible. We claim it because we can demonstrate it through routines, through records, through continuous improvement. So that is the bridge from faith to operation. Yeah. So when we say you're from faith to operations, what we really mean is taking the values we all believe in, Islamic values and embed them into habits, the workflows, the process, the routines that the staff repeat every single day in the hotels or in the food outlets. This is what makes halalan tayyiban credible. Not because we say it, but because we can show it. It measures it and improve it over time. And this is actually the direction the global tourism industry is moving towards. Evidence-based assurance, yeah. Semua ada ratings, yeah. Even the restrooms, we have ratings. Ethical conducts, sustainable practices are also rooted not only in standards but also in the spiritual responsibility. Now, this particular slide anchors our entire discussion in the Quran. In the Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 168, yeah? Eat of what is lawful and good on earth and do not follow the footsteps of shaitan. This is very clear, okay? Because indeed, shaitan is our clear enemy. Allah also commands us to consume what is halal and also what is tayyib, not just lawful, yeah, but also good, clean, safe. So immediately, Islam links permissibility with quality, not quantity. So this principle applies directly to how we run kitchens in the tourism context. Prepare food, manage our suppliers, communicate with guests, right? So the second verse here, I mentioned Surah Al-Araf, okay? In Surah Al-Araf, verse 31, Allah reminds us, eat and drink, but do not waste. وَلَا تُسْرِفُوا وَلَا تُسْرِفُوا. This prohibition against israf or wastefulness gives us a powerful ethical direction for tourism and hospitality because food waste, resource use, careless operations, those are real challenges in the tourism industry. This is incredibly relevant for tourism, especially food and beverages operations where buffets, overproduction, poor planning often create unnecessary waste. Okay, so taking these verses together, it tells us that halal and tayyiban is not only about ingredients, it is also about lawful inputs, clean, respectful delivery, disciplined avoidance of waste. These are not abstract teachings, yeah. These are translated directly into hospitality duties, how we source, how we store, how we prepare food, how we treat guests, and how we manage resources responsibly. So the Quran actually gives us the moral compass. Our job in tourism is to turn that compass into daily operational practice. Yeah? So we see here the 4 halal criteria operational. You see that it shows that how to turn halal principles into real everyday practices in hospitality. The essence, okay, the essence are the inputs. It's about the inputs, the verified suppliers, proper segregation, yeah, traceability so that every ingredient has a clear halal assured path. We know where it comes from. And then ethics, acquisition focuses on the ethics, fair contracts, yeah, transparent pricing, when you do procurement, and no usury or kickbacks, no riba, yeah, no money under the table and things like that. So a halal product must come from a halal way of doing business. Okay. Now, process. Production is the process. And we have halal assurance systems, we have HACCP, HACCP, yeah. We also have ISO, time temperature control, allergen management, approval cleaning agents, the chemicals that we use are not toxic. This is where hygiene and halal meet. in this production process. And the results of course, are the outcomes, truthful claims, safe waste management, and respectful, um, uh, dignified services. Okay, together, these criteria can shift halal from being just a label to being a system that can be trusted, audited, and consistently delivered. So each criterion here maps to plan actions. Yeah, who we buy from, how we store, how we cook, how we clean our premises and kitchen, how we verify the products and purchases, how we communicate and dispose, all are documented. Okay. And we see here the standards that help you do this correctly, all right, is that we have these standards that gives us the structure that we need to turn halal and tayyiban into a reliable, repeatable system. Okay, because it's a system. We have in Brunei PBD 2007. Okay, that's the Brunei Halal Standards, and the Halal Certificate of Label Orders 2005, which provides the legal and operational foundation in Brunei. And many other countries like Malaysia, they have their own documents, and they tell us what must be halal, how it must be done, how it must be verified, and how evidence should be documented. And also we have Codex Alimentarius, yeah? Codex, HACCP, ISO 22000 from the Global Backbone of Food Safety. These are the standards that strengthen kitchen hygiene, segregation, temperature control, yeah, food safety systems, and so on. We'll talk about this later again in the other slides. And the third one is the GSTC. GSTC is the Global Sustainable Tourism Council. Okay, is a framework that helps destinations, tourist destinations, manage sustainability in terms of culture, okay, environment. This is what we talk about sustainable tourism, the culture, environment, community, governance. It all connects to halal and tayyiban, to broader the stewardship and responsible tourism. So together, these standards ensure what we are not guessing. We have solid frameworks that tells us what to do, how to do it, and how to prove that we did it right. Okay. And the next one is about practice. Taib in practice. When we talk about Taib in a tourism context, this is where the values become very practical. Yeah. It starts with the kitchen environment, proper station design, color-coded tools. Yeah, they have red for raw meat, blue for raw fish, yellow for cooked meats. All these are color-coded, and also halal-only zones. For halal kitchen, they have only halal-only zones. So there is no opportunity for cross-contamination. There is no opportunity for any near miss. Yeah, they may look like simple steps, but they protect both halal integrity and food safety with all these process, yeah, with all these procedures. Then we have time temperature discipline, making sure food is stored, cooked, displayed within the safe limits. Artinya, you don't leave it until, many hours on display. And proper allergen protocols. Of course, you have to label, maybe people are allergic to peanuts, allergic to mushrooms, and so on. This is where cleanliness meets safety, and where a taib system protects guests long before food reaches the plate. Yeah, and finally, the taib shows that the way we communicate, clear, truthful labels. Yeah, like here, food hygiene rating 5. Yeah, truthful labels, no vagues, no misleading claims. And then we have respectful guest interactions. If something is not halal, we say it's not halal. Yeah. If an ingredient may contain allergens, we state it clearly. So these are communication. So tayyib is not an abstract term. It is visible in how clean our processes are, how honest our communication is, and how dignified our service feels to the guest. Yeah, so it's very important to have all these considered. Now, anti-waste is a religious and operational duty. It's clear because it's in the Quran. In Islam, avoiding waste is not an option. It's an instruction by Allah. Surah Al-Araf, I remind you. So when we apply halal tayyib to tourism, reducing waste becomes both a religious responsibility and a professional standard. We start with prevention, better forecasting, and also portion control, the right size buffet so that we don't cook food that guests will never eat or overproduced, right? So if surplus remains, now either leftovers, surpluses, redistribution becomes the next step. So redistribution means we donate safely with proper time temperature logs to protect beneficiaries. Maksudnya, we don't distribute or we don't give away or donate bad items or bad food. It has to be proper time temperature, safe, it will not go bad when it reaches the beneficiaries. And after that, we move to recovery. Recovery using lawful animal feed, yeah, composting or anaerobic digestion to keep food scraps out of landfills, right? So we have to be responsible in terms of recovery. And finally, we measure how we measure simple indicators like diversion rate of or kilograms of waste per guest, yeah, or per night, that can tell us whether our system is improving or not. So we can measure all those the procedures and the process. We can measure our output. So anti-waste is deeply Islamic, environmentally responsible, and also operationally smart. It saves money, of course, because you don't membazir, protects resources, and reflects the dignity embedded in halalan tayyibain. And another way of seeing it is that when we avoid waste, it is more barakah because we don't membazir, yeah? And the next slide here is a case where what good looks like in tourism. Yeah, a few quick examples of what halal tayyib looks like when it's translated into real hospitality operations is that in one multi-hotel breakfast project, for example, properties use simple analytics, okay? Literally tracking what guests actually consume. They know, okay, this dish is popular, okay? Guests love this dish. So they can track and they can redesign their buffet layout so that, it's more conducive, it's more convenient for the hotel guests, for the patrons. So the result was a dramatic drop in food waste without reducing guest satisfaction. In other case, a single hotel, I will bring later about these cases, implemented AI-enabled waste tracking. See how technology can come in, yeah, and be incorporated into this industry. So within a few months, they cut food waste almost 50%. Yeah, this is the case of this hotel. They saved thousands of dollars and significantly improved their kitchen efficiency. And for the traceability, several hotels now use QR coded batches, and cold chain sensors to track their inventories. Yeah, this means that if there's ever a question about the ingredient, they can always trace it back to the supplier in a matter of seconds. And investigations become faster if there's anything happening, if something wrong happened, they can investigate faster, clearer, and then more transparent for the guest. The guest will not be in question mark all the time. So these examples show that halal Taiwan is not theoretical. When it is applied through smart design and simple technology, it creates cleaner operations, stronger trust, and also better sustainability outcomes. Yeah. Now, I would like to talk about this halal type hospitality system where halal type becomes a working system. It's not a religious instruction. Think of it as a simple chain, for example, inputs, processes, outputs, and then outcomes. Yeah. We begin with inputs, where the suppliers, the kitchen infrastructure, and also the staff competency, and also even your data tools. Yeah. If these inputs are, not in order, they are quite poor, they are weak, so the system will never produce halal type outcomes, no matter how good the intention is. So we have to have good inputs. What you put in with good inputs will give good output. Remember that. So that when we move to process, there is where standards become very much alive. We integrate halal assurance systems, HACCP, and also ISO food safety requirements. We enforce segregation, separation. We monitor time and temperature. We manage the allergens, yeah? We cultivate the respectful workplace culture. And all these is the engine of Halal and Tayyiban hospitality. And the output, what the guests immediately see. Okay, they see clean kitchens, honest labels, safe food, clean food, good services, very dignified and with integrity. So the real value is in the outcomes. That's where we create the value. In tourism industry, this outcome is very important. The greater the trust, you reduce waste and emission, better well-being for the guest, staff, and the environment. So HTHS chain helps us evaluate, are we only performing halal as a checklist, or are we producing the outcomes that halal and tayyiban is meant to deliver? So we can actually muhasabah, make a checklist. When the chain works, halal is not just permissible, it becomes wholesome, responsible, and sustainable. Okay, now when we go to global hygiene, food safety, yeah, talk about halal and tayyiban in tourism, we must remember that the foundation is always hygiene and food safety. So these global frameworks create the backbone that every halal system builds upon, because we have codex. First, we have codex, the codex general principles of food safety, food hygiene, sorry, and HACCP. Yeah, it was updated in 2020. Codex is recognized by WHO, World Health Organization, and also FAO, the Food, yeah, Association, and it outlines the fundamental practices every food operation must follow. So ada you punya documents, clean handling, proper storage, temperature control, systematic risk prevention, cross-contamination prevention, things like that. So this is very universal language of food safety used in every serious hospitality operation worldwide, even on flights. Yeah, every flight have to follow all these regulations as well. The ISO 22000, a full food safety management system that integrates HACCP with organizational culture, communication, and also continual improvement. So it helps hotels and restaurants move from reactive hygiene to a structured, auditable system. It can be audited. Yeah. Then we have also FSSC 22000. It was built on ISO 22000, but adds a stronger requirement for certification credibility. So many multinational hotels and food manufacturers use FSSC because it's recognized and accepted by major regulators. So why does this matter for halal tayyib? For halal and tayyiban? Because these standards ensure that what is permissible is also safe. It's controlled, it's reliable. Without hygiene and safety, halal claims cannot be fully met, yeah, and the especially Quranic requirement of tayyib, wholesome, clean, and also beneficial. So when we align the system, the halal system, with Codex, with ISO, with HACCP, we are not importing foreign ideas. Okay, those things are already in Islam. It's just that they made it into a document. Yeah, we are strengthening the operational muscles that make halal and tayyiban and trustworthy in the tourism industry. So we have to remember that. Yeah. And we say inputs. We were talking about inputs just now. When we talk about halal and tayyiban, the entire chain begins long before the food reaches the kitchen. So it starts here. The inputs, the suppliers. And when we have suppliers, of course, we have documents, the inventory list, the purchasing orders, all those documents. So the first requirement is the supplier approval. A tourism or hospitality establishment must only work with suppliers who can provide both halal evidence and food safety documentation. This is very important to make it halal kitchen in a in a in a tourism or hospitality industry. This includes halal certificates, yeah, product certifications, specifications, proof that their handlings and storage and transport follow acceptable hygiene practices. That's very important. Okay, they don't transport it using pickup trucks with dirt and filth. So if the supplier is weak, the whole system becomes vulnerable because it's the input. Okay, we need traceability. Traceability, every ingredient enters the kitchen should be linked to a lot number or a QR badge, and that badge should be traceable right up to the menu item that the guest consumes. Those menus use which ingredients, and these ingredients have numbers, they have badges, QR badges, they can be traced. If there is ever a complaint or investigation, we should be able to trace the exact batch back to the source within minutes, yeah, and not days. For example, when we had that cross-contamination issue with the Cadbury, they identified which batch, which shipment, yeah, that was contaminated. So it was declared a non-halal batch. Yeah, it was already contaminated. So the batch numbering is very important. So finally, all these documentation must be kept as evidence aligned with our standards, in this case PBD for Brunei, yeah, our label order, our certificate order. And these regulations require establishments to maintain records that demonstrate control, not just trust. This is where halal moves from faith-based expectation to auditable practices. So input one is really about building trustworthy foundation, trust. When the inputs are clean, verified, documented, the rest of halal Taliban chain becomes much stronger and much more reliable. Now, inputs two. What are the second inputs? This is the infrastructure and the people. These are the inputs. Once the documents, the suppliers are okay, it's in order, we have to strengthen the infrastructure and the people. These two elements are inseparable. Even the best SOPs will fail if the space is poorly designed or if the staff are not equipped. So it's either or. You have to have both. It's not either or. To have a good, credible, and strong infrastructure, strong credibility, we have to have both. not only the infrastructure, but also the people. We will begin with the segregated storage and preparation areas. For halal and Taiban operation, we must take it seriously. We must make a physically difficult for cross-contamination to occur. Separatekan benar-benar. That means separate shelvings, clear zoning, yeah, this zone only for halal items, and color-coded tools so that this raw meat, ready-to-eat items, allergen never mix, they don't mix. They have separate chopping boards, they have separate utensils and knives, all are separate. So this physical control reduce reliance on memory and reduce the chances of human error. You know, sometimes we forget, is it washed? Or did I use this just now? So it's all using memory. Sometimes human error is very fatal. Yeah. Next is the use of approved cleaning chemical. Again, toxic chemicals are not approved. Okay, it has to be proper verification logs. It's not enough for a kitchen to look clean. It must be clean with substances that are halal compliant and food safe. You don't clean your tabletop with Ritsac, yeah, just to get rid of the for example, a sticky thing. So it has to be food safe, compliant. Verification logs, including swab tests or simple checklists, for example, create the evidence that routines are actually being followed. And also, finally, we cannot forget the people. The people is very important. The infrastructure only works when staff are trained, confident, and they know what they're doing. They're competent. Yeah. If the staff makes an error, then everything is also going down the drain. So this is where structured training comes. They have to be trained, supported by micro credentials or high risk tasks such as handling allergens, for example, managing cold chain deliveries, what they have to do when they receive the vegetables and fruits, what they have to do next, how they store it, conducting sanitation, for example. People need to be properly trained. So these credentials are short, practical, and measurable, perfect for frontline hospitality workers. So these can be a micro credential courses that can be offered by C4L, in fact, yeah. So input two is all about giving staff the right space, the right tools, the right skills. Okay, when the infrastructure is well designed and people are well trained, Halalam Taiwan is no longer dependent on luck or goodwill. It becomes the everyday routine. Yeah, benda yang sudah terbiasa. Now, for we come to the heart of halal and Taiban operations, the process architecture. This is where the halal assurance system, the HACCP, the ISO principles join together to create a predictable, reliable workflow, right? So we start with receiving and storage. Yeah, every item that enters the kitchen must be labeled, must be segregated, and then stored on the right shelves, with the right temperature, with the right cold freezer or cabinets, for example. This is the first critical control point. If we learn HACCP, okay, this is the first one for kitchen. If anything goes wrong here, no amount of cooking or cleaning will fix it because it's the items are spoiled. So halal and Taiwan starts with discipline at the receiving dock. Okay, it should be labeled, it should be documented. So now next one is the preparation and service, where the station design really matters. Tools and utensils must be used with discipline. Do not mix. They are color coded. Okay. Don't mix between raw and cooked food or between allergenic and non-allergenic items. This is also where halal zoning is enforced, okay? When stations are designed properly, the environment itself prevents mistakes, inshallah. Sanitation is another pillar. You have to keep it clean. Every surface, tool, station must be clean using approved agents, yeah? Applied for the correct contact time. Don't spoil the utensils, of course. Staff should record these actions to provide evidence of consistency. Clean isn't just about appearance, it is a controlled process. So, finally, when we close the loop with internal audits, they are not punishment. These are not punishment exercise. Okay, when you're being audited, don't be scared. Don't be feel that it's a drain. It's it's it helps the team or the workers capture the near misses early, the almost um near misses, sorry, okay, near misses where the um the approved agents or the analysis root cause here can take corrective and preventive actions. For example, the management reviews these findings regularly, yeah, because the audits are done regularly, and to ensure the system is improving, not stagnating. Okay, in short, also, this process architecture transformed the halal and Taliban from a set of beliefs into a system that is more reliable because we have audits, yeah, and dignified experience every single day. Now, we talk about smart traceability, the logistics. As we move to it, a truly modern ecosystem, yeah, modern halal and Taliban, traceability becomes one of the most powerful tools we have. We have logistics 4.0 tools. These are the technologies that we have at the moment. So in the past, halal assurance rely heavily on paperwork and memory. But today we have technology that can strengthen the assurance with speed, accuracy, transparency. That's what 4.0 industry is all about. They have technology 4.0. First, we can map, for example, here for tourism, we can map each menu item to a batch number and back to its supplier, the QR coding, okay, the barcode. This means that if a guest raises a concern about a particular dish, for example, we can trace the exact batch of chicken, spices, vegetables, just within seconds. So it adds on confidence. Next, the IoT sensors, IoT, Internet of Things sensors, it plays a crucial role in cold chain integrity, the temperature. These sensors continuously monitor the temperature in chillers and freezers, very important for raw materials, for um, the um, the vegetables and fruits, raw meat. Yeah, if a door is left open or a freezer warms up unexpectedly, tutup karan or whatever, so the system sends an alert instantly. Yeah, ada berbunyi. Instead of discovering a problem hours later, knowing that your meat has gone stale or gone bad, the staff can actually immediately prevent this spoilage, yeah, and ensure safety kalau dilihatnya sudah um, we don't want to see the vegetables sudah nampak layu, buruk, and you know, then you notice it. It has to be before it happens. So the sensors can actually help us do that. Finally, we capture the event log. Who did what, when, where. Yeah, this is like what logbook lah. This is not about policing people, not trying to make people feel agitated or anything. It builds a reliable system. It's a system. You don't feel that it's a drain or it's a hassle. Because when we know exactly, for example, the temperatures, when we know it's checked, when the deliveries arrived, when the corrective actions were taken, you know when, and we everything happens, we create an operational memory, yeah, and that um, this is logistics 4.0 that brings to halalan tayyibain. It's a smarter, faster, transparent system that protects integrity from farm to fork and also can give the guests confidence about the premises, but the promises that we give them that backed by the evidence verifiable data. Now, cross-contamination. What is cross-contamination? In halal tayyiban of hospitality, cross-contamination is one of the most sensitive risks. Yang paling ditakuti ya. It's very sensitive. And also one of the most preventable. It can be prevented before it happens. When we talk about clean, we don't just mean visually tidy. We mean structurally protected. So we start with physical or time-based segregation, halal only preparation, or dedicated time window for halal prep if the space is limited, bercampurkan. So they have to have a window for the halal food preparation. And immediately, this reduces the chance of mixing raw and cooked foods or halal and non-halal materials. But of course, the cleaning has to be done, the surto has to be done properly. This is one of the most powerful controls before it removes the opportunity for mistakes before they happen. Okay, and then of course the time temperature discipline, as I mentioned, yeah, and whether something is chilling, thawing, cooking, cooling, yeah, or being held for service, before it's being sent to the tables, the right temperature at the right time prevents bacterial growth, and maintains integrity so that the food does not go bad. Many food safety failures happen not because the food is haram, but because it becomes unsafe. For example, bangas, yeah, it becomes stale or sudah buntu, the fish gone bad or the meat gone bad or the seafood, is not fresh. So, and the Quranic idea of tayyib reminds us that lawful food must also be wholesome. That's why it must be safe. And finally, we manage allergen protocols and cleaning validations. We know that we have to have prevent allergen cross contact, also protect halal integrity, the dedicated tools, the cleaning routines, very strict routines, and then verification tests. Cleaning shouldn't rely on trust alone. You look nampak macam bersih, but you have to do it. Yeah, it should be validated, logged, and auditable. So again, this is trustworthiness lah of the workers. And these controls work together to create an environment where halal and tayyiban is protected, not only by intention, but by design. So cross-contamination risk here are engineered out of the system. Awal-awal prevent. Guests experience safety, dignity, yeah, and full confidence of what is served. They're happy with what is being served. Now, when we talk about secular practices, we talk about cleanliness, wholesome safety. It also includes responsibility. This is what I mentioned just now, being trustworthiness, being responsible, responsibility to the people, to creation, and to the resources that Allah provided. We as vicegerents, we as a Khalifa, stewardship, yeah, this is where secular practices come in. First is prevention. Okay, the hotels and restaurants can forecast demand more accurately, engineer menus to reduce waste items, and design buffets in the right size instead of overproducing. So prevention is most powerful. Prevention is better than cure. It's most powerful form of anti-waste because it stops the problem before it starts. So if the food is still there, other leftovers, the next option will be redistribution. Don't let it go to waste. So safe donation systems, supported by time temperature logs, allow surplus food to reach communities in need, and then avoid wastefulness. For what cannot be donated, we move to recovery. This means that they convert suitable waste into animal feed. Ya, dibagi makan burung, ikan, ya. These methods transform waste, atau boleh jadi compost, ya. Transform waste into new resources rather than sending it to the landfill as waste. Yeah, so you make it as boleh jadi baja, especially kitchen waste. There's so many things that can be done from the kitchen waste to agriculture. Finally, we measure our impact through KPIs. We have to have a performance indicator, diversion rate, kilograms of waste, as I mentioned earlier, and the cost implication, how much we can save from buying stuff, buying ingredients, buying produce over and over again, and yet we throw it away. Yeah, so we can regulate our cost. Okay, so in short, this practices are not just environmental initiatives, they are tayyib, aligned with tayyib. They reflect gratitude, the discipline, and also care for creation, a responsibility towards the earth, yeah, making the tourism experience more ethical and more sustainable for everyone. That's why it matters in tourism industry. Now, here is just an example of the KPIs, how we set it. Yeah, first we have the indicators, and then we have the hygiene KPIs. You check the KPIs, and then we have the trust. We track the trust and dignity, which are central to the Muslim guest experience, especially. Yeah, and also we have sustainability KPIs to measure food waste intensity, water and energy intensity. Yeah, most hotels now very careful with towels. Yeah, towels, cleaning the towels or exchanging the towels. They prefer for the guests to keep it in the bathroom and not exchange towels every day because the cleaning agent is sometimes not good for the earth. Yeah, the level of chemical. So here I will bring you through. I'd like to share on the case. I mentioned about cases just now that this first case, it's a hotel. For example, it shows how smart the system is and it can transform hospitality operations. For Hilton, yeah, in UAE, they've implemented what they call the Green Breakfast Initiative. This is an example that I'd like to share. The Green Breakfast Initiative, yeah, in across their 13 hotels. And this project focused on using AI kitchen analytics to understand exactly where, when, and why food waste was occurring during breakfast service. So when they have this data, they redesign their buffet layouts. Okay, they adjust the portion sizes, the pattern of their replenishment of food, and then the item placement based on real consumption behavior. Okay, they don't produce or place items which are not popular. So instead of guessing what guests wanted, the system provide accurate insights because they have the data. The outcome was remarkable, because within just 4 months, the breakfast waste dropped by 62% in 4 months. So this is not only a sustainability win, it represents major cost savings for the hotels, for the business, operational efficiency, and then alignment with the principle of avoiding israf or wastefulness. They don't waste, they reduce. A value central for Taib hospitality. And importantly, this success did not come from technology alone. There are three enablers, of course. The feedback loops, the staff reviewed the analytic daily, yeah, from the staff, okay, and then they adjust the patterns, they adjust the services, and then the staff engagement also, the cooks, the servers, the stewards, yeah, were were also included in the as the problem solvers, okay, and then the data visibility, the managers could see the real instantly, the results instantly, which kept everyone motivated, motivated lah, because they keep reducing the waste. And this case shows that when technology, people, and process come together, hotels can unlock huge improvements while staying true to halal and tayyiban values of responsibility, discipline, and care of resources. Okay? And case B, I'd like to share, this is a very interesting one, Sofitel Bangkok. It's a second case. It shows how even a single hotel can achieve the big results with very small but consistent changes. Okay, Sofitel in Sukhumvit, Bangkok. Okay, they introduced AI-powered waste tracking in its kitchen technology. So the system recorded exactly what was being thrown away, the type of food being thrown away, the quantity, and then the time of day, when is it usually being thrown. Yeah. With this visibility, they see this. So the team, the workers, the managers, they didn't need a full-scale redesign. They just simply made a small process tweaks, adjusting the volumes, the prep volumes. They refined the buffet replenishment, and then they tighten up handling routines. Okay, so the result was substantial, around 50% reduction of food waste, which translated to approximately 60,000 US dollars in annual savings. This is according to the hotel. So for a single property, this is extremely impactful. They save a lot. So what made this possible is two simple learnings, is that daily visibility, they check every day. When the chefs and managers could actually see the waste patterns, they could act immediately. And the visibility creates accountability without blame. They know what's happening. They don't blame each other. They know. Okay. And then the small procedural shifts, of course. It's not major changes, not expensive renovation, just small, smart adjustments repeated consistently. So this case demonstrates a very powerful principle. You do not need big budgets to deliver halal and tayyiban outcomes. So what you need is awareness, discipline, and the team, the workers that understands the value of reducing waste financially, ethically, and environmentally. Now, for the next one, there's another case. This is on the traceability for halal integrity. This case shows how traceability technology can directly strengthen halal integrity, not just food waste or food safety or efficiency, but the trust. The trust as the heart at the heart of halal and tayyiban hospitality. So in this project, hotels, they have piloted projects. They have IoT level mapping, the Internet of Things level mapping for all key ingredients, meaning that every menu item could be linked back to a specific batch from a specific supplier. So, for example, about the onions, the anchovies, the all the salt and pepper, yeah, all the vegetables, they come with batches, specific batch, and uh, they have they can map. It's linked back to the specific batch where it comes from and who the suppliers are. This was also supported by the cold chain sensors that monitor the chillers, yeah, and freezers around the clock, the temperature. So if the temperature drifted out of range, for example, it becomes weaker or too high or too low, the system will trigger an alarm and alerts instantly. So this results a major improvement in the operational confidence and the investigations of um, anything wrong happening. Yeah, if there's any issue, it becomes faster to investigate because the team could immediately identify which batch was affected, the number of um, incidents also dropped because the cold chain failures were caught early. Okay, they saved the products in the cold chain, and a communication with the guests improved because especially with the Muslim travelers who often ask specific questions about sourcing and handling, they know they know what to answer. They will give transparent answer. They are very honest and trustful, yeah, very truthful. With this interesting, what's interesting is that um, it shows that combining blockchain with Internet of Things creates even stronger halal assurance. Blockchain provides an unchangeable record of sourcing, and IoT devices provide real-time verification. So together, they help remove doubt, reduce manual errors, and increase the transparency that halal systems rely on. So this case demonstrates very vital point. Technology is not replacing halal principles. That's very important. It is just supporting them by making integrity visible, traceable, and dependable from farm to fork. So that's the role of technology. You don't rely on technology to replace halal, okay, or to replace the halal principles. It is just a supporting tool. Now, when we talk about destinations, destination level is the venue itself, the place where we shift from operations inside a hotel to the broader responsibility of stewarding a place. Okay, so according to GSTC criteria, they're very useful here because they give destinations a structured way to manage sustainability, covering governance, community well-being, culture, and also the environment. Yeah. We also draw the guidance from the global ethical frameworks such as UNWTO, Global Code of Ethics for Tourism, and also ICOMOS, Cultural Tourism Charter, both of which emphasize respect, authenticity, and the protection of cultural heritage. Yeah, this is very important because when tourists come to your tourism spot, they will do a lot of things, unnecessary things and unwanted things, and they will spoil the beauty of that um, cultural or tourism spot. Okay, so that's what happened in Japan. They have problems because over tourism can create that such problem. So finally, these destinations can actually use practical right sizing tools such as permits, yeah, permits for the tourists to come, timed entry, they can only be there for certain hours, certain minutes, and also differential pricing. So these are actually tools or methods or strategies to manage visitor pressure because we have problem of over tourism. These mechanisms will help protect fragile sites, improve guest experience, and ensure tourism activity remains aligned with the values of responsibility and also dignity. Hospitality, micro-credential. In hospitality, competence must be practical and immediate. So the micro-credentials allow us to certify staff on specific tasks with short sign-offs that confirm that they can perform the job safely and consistently. We also strengthen our performance through regular induction and refresher training, supported by multilingual materials and clear visual SOPs because many frontline teams work across different languages and learning styles. Yeah, they receive Japanese tourists, Chinese tourists, Koreans, yeah, Arabs. So having a value added with different languages ability is very useful for the tourism industry. And the central to all of this is just culture, encouraging staff to report the near misses without fear to blame. Near misses maksudnya almost kejadian, almost it almost happened. Bad things almost happened. Near misses. So this builds honesty, continuous learning, and also ultimately a safer and more dignified working environment. Yeah. So the staff has to be very, very trustworthy. And now the visitor guidance. This is how visitors or tourists, very simple evidence-based, can make a difference, a big difference. They tend to look for clear labels, as I mentioned, they're Muslim friendly. So separate preparation or serving stations and consistent temperature. Sometimes on the buffet line, they will say no pork atau halal food here. Yeah, halal food here, this side, and those, so especially in a non-Muslim country. So signals that the system is disciplined. So when they see all these labels, separate stations, they feel a bit more calm. Yeah. So specific questions, because um, people people will ask questions. People will ask questions, yeah, and they have to be transparent. They also prefer practices that shows responsibility. These tourists um, would like refills options, yeah, menus that name local suppliers, because it builds trust and connection. Okay. So finally, the feedback from the tourists, from the visitors, works best when guests use formal channels to provide specific details, which enables hotels to act quickly and improve the experience for everyone. Here, just a quick one. Not we've seen what good looks like in tourism. The next question is, how do we start? Here's a practical 90 days roadmap. Very simple one that any property can implement immediately. Then we understand that the key elements of Halal Taiban hospitality system, the question becomes, where do we begin? So the first 90 days are about building clarity, tightening the controls, to your first thing that you need to do, and creating early wins that staff and guests can see. First, we start by mapping the existing flows, yeah, and then how ingredients move, whether from the shelves, from the chillers uh, to the station, the cooking station, how ingredients move, where decisions are made, where the risks might appear. So you have to map all this. Okay, this helps to establish baseline KPIs, so we know whether improvement are happening or not. Secondly, we immediately fix the obvious cross-contact risk if there is any cross-contamination risk. There are usually simple adjustments. For example, reorganizing the station so that no mixing, tightening segregation, separation, changing the way tools are used, labelings, yeah, color coding. And thirdly, we verify supplier documentation against, for example, here PPD 24, for example, Brunei standards. So you verify the documentation, and this step actually builds the confidence that the inputs are aligned with the standards before anything even enters the kitchen. So if it does not comply to the standards, then it shouldn't enter the kitchen at all. And finally, we run daily checks, line checks. Yeah, they're short, routine checks, um, improvements that are visible to both staff and guests, and also reinforcing trust and demonstrating progress early on. So the goal is first 90 days. It's not perfection, but it's about establishing discipline, building confidence, creating foundation for a full halal and Taiban hospitality system. And then it goes on to the 91 to 180 days. We consolidate the system and build staff capability, start the tech pilots, yeah, doing incorporate some technology, and then safe redistribution and reduce waste, yeah. And for the next 181 days to the end of the year, 365 days, we consolidate the system, yeah, um, and turn practices into habits, jadikan ia habit and habit into recognition, communicate the progress transparently to the stakeholders. Okay, so jadikan ia rutin, jadikan ia habit, jadikan ia jadi kebiasaan kita ni. Now, let me close this with a very simple takeaways, bringing everything together. The first thing is that Halal and Taiban in tourism is not about labels or symbols alone. Yeah, it's about moving from intention to systems, and from systems to measurement, where you can measure, you can audit. When hotels and destinations track what they do, whether it's segregation, whether it is just hygiene logs, logbooks, and also the waste data, they turn values into verifiable practices. Secondly, we're not starting from zero. Brunei, for example, for Brunei tourism, we already have a strong foundation through our standard PBD, yeah, and halal certificate or label order. What we're suggesting today is the alignment, bringing the standards PBD 24 into conversation with global food safety approaches like Codex and ISO, and with sustainability frameworks such as the JSDC. This alignment strengthens credibility internationally. Actually, this have already been done as well. Yeah, it's just we need to beef up and progress more. Thirdly, when we combine smart systems like sensors, analytics, or traceability with clean operations, we reduce risk. We prevent contamination, cut unnecessary costs, and most importantly, build trust, smart and clean. Uh, we build trust with the tourists, with the stakeholders. So smart and clean are not separate from halal and Taiwan. They actually operationalize together. Okay. So finally, all this can begin small. As I mentioned, a 90-day wins improvement cycle, whether it's redesigning a buffet, tightening the cold chain logs, improving kitchen zoning, already creates visible wins actually. So when organizations publish these results, even in simple dashboard KPI indicators, trust grows both locally and internationally. People trust your organization when they see these wins or this good improvement. So the message is start small. You start you small and measure, align with the standards, and build a system that guests can feel, yeah, can feel the improvement, not just see it. Okay, and before we close, I think everyone has a role. When we measure or teach and tell the truth, halal and taiban becomes visible and trusted. I want to bring the whole message together by looking at what halal and taiban requires from each group in the tourism ecosystem. For staff, for example, the staff and the workers in the tourism industry, the foundation is discipline. This is the most important thing. Follow the SOPs, log what you do, and report any near misses. In halal assurance, transparency is not a punishment. It's part of a just culture. It's fair, where we learn early before mistakes become incidents. Okay, preventing first. And for the managers, the responsibility shifts to verification and improvement. This includes checking the suppliers. Yeah, the managers have these responsibilities. They check the suppliers, ensure the documents are current, monitor the small set of KPIs, um, cross-contamination incidents, for example, waste reduction, cold chain compliance. Those are the simple and small KPIs that you can monitor. And also, importantly, managers have to fix the root causes, not the symptoms, the root cause. Itu yang penting, cari di mana root cause-nya. For guests, of course, the role is simpler lah, but very, very powerful because guests can look for separation between halal and non-halal zones when they enter a buffet line, a restaurant. Okay, they read labels, so they look for labels and ask kind, respectful questions. When something seems unclear, for example, use feedback channels. Helps. We can help them use proper channels to improve without creating confrontation. Okay, ask them to fill in a feedback form and things like that. So finally, the destination and also regulators. So there are two things, the destination and the regulators. The task is alignment. We align the standards, for example, the Codex and ISO food safety standards and halal standards, and integrate global tourism frameworks like GSTC for sustainability. Okay, because ada kriteria according to GSTC for tourism. And most importantly, publish the indicators. When a destination openly shares its progress, yeah, it builds trust at the national level and then at international level. So together, these actions create a tourism environment that is not only halal and safe, but also truly tayyib, clean, ethical, and accountable and responsible. Thank you. That's the end of my sharing. I hope it's meaningful, bermanfaat to everyone. Um, if there is no further, um, there's no further, I think, are we on time? We're almost on time, but so I leave it to the moderator. We have a question and answer session, and I thank you for listening. We probably meet again in another session. Um, I enjoyed it, and thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Shall we end this program? Datin?
Do we have any questions from the audience? Thank you for being here. Is there any question? You can voice it out or you can type it in the chat.
No.
No questions, I guess.
No, Datin. No, So far, no questions, Datin.
Apa tu?
So far, no questions in the chat box.
All right, okay. So
Okay.
I give it back to moderator.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ustazah and Hajjana Liza, for today's very informative sharing session. Let's end our program with the recitation of Surah Al-As and Tasbih Kafara. Thank you, and till we meet again. Wabillahi taufiq
Thank
wal
you.
hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much.
Okay.